Hey designers, this is Kristen from Cut File Classroom, where I teach you how to design SVG cut files for Cricut, Silhouette, and other cutting machines. In today's video, I'm going to show 3 quick and easy ways to create sparkles for your SVGs. Sparkles are an easy way to add a bit of magic to your designs and are especially popular now as part of the whole retro aesthetic trend. So let's get started. First, I'll move these over to the side so I have a clean artboard to work with. The first sparkle starts with a circle, so I'm going to press L on my keyboard to bring up the ellipse tool. You can also find it right over here in the toolbar. I'm going to hold Shift as I click and drag to create a perfect circle, but you could also do this using an oval shape. And then I'm going to head up to the Effect menu, Distort and Transform, Pucker, and Bloat. In this window, I can use the slider, make sure that preview is checked, and I can use the slider here to create a sparkle shape. Now, the further you drag this to the left, the more pointy these ends are going to get. And something that you want to keep in mind when you're doing SVG files is that whether you're designing for paper or vinyl, something this skinny is just going to be really tough to deal with. If it's vinyl, it's going to leave you with very little adhesive. If it's paper, it's going to crumple and be very thin, and it's just probably not a good idea. So you want to be careful not to go too thin on those points and just make sure that your points have enough width and surface area to cut cleanly and to be manageable for the user once they're cut. So once you find a shape that you like, you can go ahead and click OK. And that is one type of sparkle, and it just has very nice, smooth lines. For this next type of sparkle, you're going to use the star tool, which is actually hidden underneath the ellipse tool here in the toolbar. So I've got the star tool selected, and I'm going to hold Shift just to keep my shape nice and straight. If I don't hold Shift, it can twist and turn, so I'm holding Shift to keep my star straight. I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag to put the star on my artboard. And once I have it here, we see a whole bunch of little like circles all around this shape. This one here with the arrows on it lets us increase, if I drag it down, or decrease the number of points that the star has. So if I take it up 1 notch from the default star, it gives me 4 points. So this alone, I think, looks like a pretty nice sparkle, but you can even adjust things further using these little white dots. So I can adjust how thick or thin. Keep in mind, again, that you don't want to go too thin on these points, but you can adjust that. And then you can also use this circle on the edge to adjust how long your points are. So this all just depends on your personal preference and what kind of style you're going for. And then personally, I like to have a little bit of a rounded edge here. You can totally leave that as a corner, but I like to have a rounded edge. So I'll press A on my keyboard to bring up the direct selection tool, but you can also find it here in the toolbar. And I am going to use this direct selection tool to drag a marquee and select these 4 inner points. And that's going to bring up the live corner widgets here. And once I have all 4 of these points selected, I can just click on one of these corner widgets and it'll adjust all 4 of those selected points for me. So I can just kind of tweak and add a little bit of softness to that curve there. So that's the second type of sparkle. And then the third type of sparkle is not so quick and easy, but I do like to use it for the type of sparkles where you want one side to be longer than the other side, like we have here. So the way I do that is I start with the ellipse tool again. So I'm going to press L on my keyboard and I'm going to draw a somewhat skinny ellipse. And then I'm going to grab the Convert Anchor Point tool, which is Shift C on my keyboard. And I'm going to click on one of those points to convert it to a corner. And then I'm just going to do the same with the other points, and that gives me this diamond shape. And then I'm going to press R on my keyboard to bring up the rotation tool, and now we can see this little crosshair in the middle. And I'm going to click and drag clockwise as I press Alt or Option on my keyboard, and that creates a copy as I start rotating this. Then I'm actually going to throw in the Shift key because I want this to snap in place at a 90-degree angle from where I started. So So once I've got it there, I'm going to release my mouse and I've got my copy already placed at 90 degrees. So now this sparkle looks pretty cute as is, and you could keep this as is, but I like to use this method for creating sparkles where one side is longer than the other. So I'm going to select this top shape with the selection tool, and I'm just going to press Alt or Option on my keyboard to drag in on those side handles and make that second shape a little more narrow. And once again, we could leave this as is, or we could soften those corners as well. So I'm actually going to make a copy of this over to the side. I like to have a copy of those shapes. That way I don't have to draw them and rotate them again. And then I can use these shapes to make more sparkles. So back over here, if I want to add a little bit of softness to those corners there, I'm going to come to the Pathfinder panel and click Unite, which makes this all one shape. And now I'm going to do the same thing and press A on my keyboard to bring up the direct selection tool. I'm going to click and drag around those 4 inner corner points, and I'm going to use the live corner widget to just soften those up. So there we have 3 quick and easy sparkles. And then the way I usually work with these in my designs is I'll have a sparkle shape and then I'll copy it and make a smaller one and just kind of start to scatter the copied sparkles around to create, you know, that magical sparkle effect. Something else that you can do, let me undo that. Something else you can do is you can build on top of your sparkles. You can do that with all 3 of these. So I'll start with this one. I'm going to do Command or Control C to make a copy. Then I'm going to do Command or Control F to paste in front. So now I have a copy of my sparkle on top of the original. So with this shape selected, I'm going to hover my mouse at the corner and I'm going to start to rotate it, and I'm going to press Shift to make it snap at a 90-degree angle from where I started. So now we have a pretty cool like star shape. Now I'm just going to hold Alt and Shift as I click to drag in and make this top copy a little bit smaller. So that gives me kind of a little bit of variation on the sparkle. For the second type of sparkle, it's the same thing. So I'm just going to make this copy here. And then I'm going to press Control or Command C to make a copy, Control or Command F to paste a copy in front. Then I'm going to hold Shift as I rotate this copy 90 degrees. And then you can use the little white circles here to adjust this star shape until you get something that you like for the top of that. And then for the last type of sparkle, it's probably easier to use something like a star shape, like this star shape base, and just layer it on top. And then you can adjust that and tweak that. Make sure it's centered there. Let me go ahead and align that and make sure it's actually centered. There we go. Okay. And there we have it. So we have several different sparkle types. Whichever way you want to use to create them is up to you, depending on what you're comfortable with and what type of sparkle you want. And then the final thing, since these will be used in SVGs, we want to make sure that these are all vector shapes. So for this first one, we created the sparkle using an effect, the pucker effect. So when we select it, we can see that Illustrator still thinks of this as a circle. So we need to convert this to actual vectors to make sure that it cuts properly on our cutting machine. So we're going to come up to Object, Expand Appearance, and now we can see it has become a vector shape. So this one is a star shape. It's already a vector shape. We don't have to touch anything. And then this one here, we already combined those 2 diamond shapes. And then the same thing down here. These were both created using the pucker. So you want to expand appearance and then use Pathfinder Unite to make them a single shape. And then here we just need to unite to make those a single shape. And then the same thing here, unite to make them a single shape. And then as always, we want to make sure we clean up our anchor points. So I'm going to right click and choose Simplify. And these are the settings I like to use for my cut files generally. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Simplify. And I think that looks good. Okay, So there we have it. We have several sparkles that we can go ahead and scatter throughout our designs. If you'd like to learn more about designing SVG files for cutting machines, head over to cutfileclassroom.com and download my free designer's guide to error-free SVGs. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and feel free to drop any questions or requests for videos that you would like to see in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.